Hello, you're with India Post Live, India's first live news conversation web TV. Unseasonal rains, climatic changes, hailstorms in many parts of western India and northern India. Will it be a double whammy for farmers this time? Also, analysts and experts are predicting a weak monsoon. What exactly will be the challenges for the new government that comes to power? We find out. Take a look.
We may have enjoyed the occasional rain in March and April, but it may not have been the same for our farmers. These rains have damaged onion crops in Nashik, Maharashtra, the place that accounts for half the onion produced in the state. Maharashtra is also the country's largest producer of onion. Adding to our problems is the indication of a weak monsoon this year, down 10% from last year. It is likely to create tension between Tamil Nadu and Karnataka once again on water sharing. The water level of Mettur Dam is around 43 meters right now, when it should be around 90 meters. And a poor monsoon would affect more than 600,000 farmers in the Kaveri Delta region. Another 1 million lives would also be affected as these laborers depend on agriculture for their livelihood. Though the Indian Met Department maintains it's still too early to predict a weak monsoon. But if the indications are anything to go by, then the next government better be prepared to tackle the monsoon bug.
It does seem like a grim picture. We have to discuss on this topic esteemed guests in our studio to join us on the conversation at India Post Live, Mr. Sanjeev Vasudev, who is an international consultant on rural development. He's an expert and has a lot of experience in observing and analyzing these kind of patterns of agriculture and farming. Also, Mr. Mahesh Palawat, who's the chief meteorologist with SkyMet. Mr. Palawat, I'll just come to you first. It's a very critical and crucial phase now in the next couple of months in terms of our climatic change and the weather patterns. Yeah. What exactly is your prediction, for the coming monsoon and the next season? What has SkyMet predicted?
We have predicted below normal monsoon. That will be 94% of long period average. That is about 89 centimeter. But this time, we think that due to evolving El Nino, monsoon rains will be deficient in many parts of India, particularly northwest and west central India. And some areas like Orissa and Rayalaseema, South India, Karnataka and Kerala will be more or less normal, but slightly below normal.
So what does it exactly mean in layman terms? What can farmers expect? What can the agricultural community really expect in terms of a monsoon then? Will we see, more rainfall in certain parts of a particular state and lesser in another parts? How should people prepare?
Yeah, actually monsoon starts from 1st June onwards and lasts till 30th September.
Right.
So monsoon progresses from South India, from Kerala, and gradually it covers whole country by 15th of July. So, if we go by geographical divisions, then northwest India, that is Rajasthan, Saurashtra, Kutch, Rajasthan, Punjab, Haryana and parts of West Uttar Pradesh, they will be getting lesser amount of rain this time due to, as we have already discussed about the El Nino effect. Right. So, these areas will be far below normal. Their rain may be 20% or may 15% below normal. Okay. These areas will be impacted, and West Central India, that is West MP, East MP, Chhattisgarh, Vidarbha, Madhya Maharashtra, Marathwada, Telangana and North Interior Karnataka. These areas also likely to receive 10 to 15% below normal rainfall. So, month-wise, it is long period average rain in if you go by June, July, August and September. In June, overall rain throughout India will be about 90% of the average rainfall in June. Okay. It will improve slightly in the month of July, it may be 94% and wetter month will be August. Right. That time this South India will be less vulnerable, and that time rainfall will be about 98% of long period average of August.
Right. Mr.
Yeah.
Vasudev, if you can translate this in terms of the adverse impact, I think Mr. Palavat is not necessarily saying that there will be a delay in the monsoon, but it will actually be weaker this time around. How will it impact our farming community and our crop produce?
Prachi, it's like this. Agriculture is not about just getting water and soil and seeds. There's a timing to the issue that is involved. So the biggest problem that occurs, even if you get sufficient rainfall on an annual data basis, if it doesn't come in at time and comes at an inopportune time, then the farmer's crop is gone anyways.
Correct.
So, statistics will keep showing that you got the amount of rainfall or you got a shortfall or you got an excess, whatever the case may be. But the problem is that this aspect of climate change is all about untimely rainfall coming in. Now, adds to the uncertainty of the farmer's future.
Exactly.
Because if you look at, because I largely am an advocate for the smallholder rain-fed farmer, and I speak for them and not so much for the Punjab Haryana farmer,
Right.
where in any case the irrigation will take care of what it needs to take care of. The rainfall being adverse in climatic kind of a perspective is going to impact the smallholder rain-fed farmer.
Absolutely.
And the larger area, as I call, is the belly of India, starting from Gujarat to West Bengal on the other side,
Exactly.
And they're entirely dependent on those 3 or 4 months of rainfall for their whole year's income. All right? So untimely rainfall means the crop is gone, and crop is gone means their livelihoods are gone, and livelihoods are gone means then you have all kinds of problems that keep creeping in, particularly when they constitute nearly 50% of the country's population.
Correct. So this time around we actually saw a very, very adverse climate. Summer really hasn't arrived in northern India.
Yeah.
We've seen hailstorms in Maharashtra. It has actually affected thousands of farmers in the western region of India. What kind of ripple effect will we see in terms of crop produce and inflationary prices?
Well, I think inflation is going to be there. In 2009 also we had a drought situation. The inflation that came up as a consequence of that has taken very many years to wipe itself out. But the only hope that we have is the forecast from SkyMet, as we were talking about the El Nino, is not the first time forecast for El Nino. And El Nino has not been so terrible for us all the time. So
Correct.
let's just hope that it works better this time. And Indian agriculture has been rather lucky with its rainfall endowment, But it's very, very dangerous to keep relying on that only and to link fates of 1 out of 2 citizens of this country to that. And sometimes you wish something happens so that it wakes up people where they need to be woken up.
Right. On this note, I will bring in Mr. Sharma, who joins in, Mr. Pranjal Sharma, who joins in from Delhi. Thank you, Mr. Pranjal. Would like to, give your views on what kind of adverse impact, and it will be a double whammy for the agricultural community with the weak monsoon prediction that the gentleman here from SkyMet has predicted. Could you please share your thoughts on this entire issue?
Good morning, everybody. I think that the issue of monsoon is very, very critical. And the last guest who was speaking, I think that's the important discussion to have. Our dependence on monsoon has not changed in the last 65 years. I think that's the worrying aspect. Where is the investment in agriculture, in irrigation by the states and the central government? This irrigation sector has been neglected. A lot of public investment which is required in it has not happened, and therefore every year we go into a panic mode and we pray to the rain god saying that we hope that the clouds will do us a favor. But I think a long term and a medium term perspective on irrigation investment is essential. Now for the immediate short term, as I was hearing the experts with you, I think there would be an impact on inflation because output will go down. But you see, the grains, the issue on grains is not a crisis because we have excellent extra capacity. In fact, a lot of it is being wasted. Have double the capacity of what we need in buffer stocks, which is available right now. So I don't see that as a problem. But if you look at the fruits and vegetables, which are critical for rising consumption, not just in urban areas, but semi-urban areas as well, that would definitely create a problem on inflation side.
On that note, in terms of food grains and prices of vegetables, we have a tweet here on our Twitter handle, #IndiaPostLive. Do keep your feedback and comments coming in on this very, very crucial discussion that we are having. Vikas Huda says, onions will make us cry again. Storage preparedness is a dream. So that seems to be also a crucial juncture that Mr. Sharma has actually pointed out. We have enough capacity, we have a very good production of food grains, but there isn't a proper storage system. There is again, time and again, a similar problem that the Government of India and the FCI has not been able to really address. Why is it happening time and again, every time our agricultural produce going actually to waste?
Yeah. So I think what we need to pick up on is what Pranjal talked about, infrastructure,
right,
not just the storage. Storage does constitute a part of infrastructure, but to avoid wastage, you also need to have better connectivity, you need to have cold chains and stuff like that. So that's on one side. Now, as far as what you're saying is concerned, Prachi, the only question we should ask ourselves is, if you track the level of investments that have been made in infrastructure or even in storage facilities over a period of time, and we, after 10, 15, 20 years, are still talking about that very issue. The need to question is, where is that money going, all right? Or is it not being effectively positioned? So I think, my last note that I said, it was with a bit of sarcasm, that sometimes I do wish that things happen so that it wakes up people in the right places where they need to. Because investments need to be made in infrastructure, and not just the way we observe them, but from a smallholder perspective. What you need is a lot more decentralized positioning of infrastructure.
Exactly.
All right? That's my take on that. Really.
Right. Pranjal, I'll just bring you in here. You've also seen the political scenario, and it's, it's the biggest election, also very critical stage that we've seen. 5 phases are over. What do you see as a big challenge? Will this, the monsoon and the unpredictability of the monsoon this time around, become a big challenge for the new government that comes to power?
Sure. For the elections, the issue is not so much the monsoon, but really inflation. And inflation cuts across all sections of the socio-economic classes. Therefore, I think that's clearly top of the agendas, apart from corruption, but that's a different discussion. But as far as the new government is concerned, there are promises and hopes that the growth rate will pick up. We have bottomed out from 10% growth rate, which was quarterly, we had reached in 2009, we less than 5%. So, the situation is pretty bad. Agriculture has held up a little bit. Rural incomes have held up a little bit because of some of the welfare schemes which the UPA government had implemented. The farm loan waiver in UPA 1, and if you look at the employment guarantee schemes in the second phase of UPA. But there is no doubt that for the new government, pulling up the growth rate would be a huge crisis, and therefore the dependence on monsoon for pulling up the growth rate would be very high. But again, it's a short term. They will have a big challenge. They really can't control the monsoon, but if they start the investment in irrigation, for instance,
right,
they create fresh incentives for the states. They do special central government sponsored schemes. I'm sure that by the end of this term of the new government, things will look so much better that subsequent governments will have lesser challenges and lesser dependence on monsoon. So I think that's what we need to look forward to, and I hope that somewhere in the growth debate, we look at the investment in agriculture sector, in irrigation specifically, because we cannot keep having this debate again and again. I'm sure the experts with you have also raised this topic several times, but it's something which is neglected constantly.
Most definitely. Mr. Palavat, I'll bring you in here in this case. What really actually caused the untimely rains and the hailstorms that we've seen? We've also seen rainfall in many parts of northern India, when it's supposed to actually be summertime.
Yeah, actually it is effect of western disturbance. Western disturbance normally starts in the month of November and lasts up to end of February, or you can say up to first week of March. But this time, this is unusual pattern has emerged, and till now there is no concrete study has been done that why this pattern has changed. We think that ecological disorder might be the reason, that deforestation, urbanization, and rain pattern is also changing. Earlier continuous rain was there, now intense shower for short duration is taking place, and that too because of this vertically development cloud like CV cloud and which is capable of giving hailstorm. So whenever this western disturbance passes over hilly region, that induced low pressure normally develops over Rajasthan or Madhya Pradesh. That time the winds from Arabian Sea as well as from Bay of Bengal give moisture to that area, and cloud formation takes place and rainfall occurs. And this time this unusual rain is continuing till the month of April, and now we are seeing that one more active disturbance which is taking place, and it will last up to next 2 days. And now wheat is in the harvesting stage, and there is might be a very huge loss in that area also.
So we are going to see some more disturbances and climate change patterns. Mr. Vasudev, you have been actually talking about the macro issue about the larger global climatic change affecting crop patterns and livelihoods in a big way. What are your major concerns that will actually have an impact on India in terms of the climatic change patterns in the long term?
Yeah, I think we have been identified as one of the locations which is going to be impacted hugely as a consequence of climate change. And also, I think I need to just bring it to your notice and those of the viewers that we are the largest rain-fed agriculture country in the world in terms of coverage and in terms of the output. So the impact is, you've been using a term double whammy. So this is a double whammy, basically, if you look at it from that perspective. The other double whammy that I would like to draw upon is, if you look at the poor rain-fed farmer, all right, I think there's very little understanding of their needs, and they're a very inconvenient lot to address for the needs, So it's always very easy to say that we have a food bowl area, Punjab, Haryana, Western UP, we keep working in that area and we keep servicing, and that is the face of Indian agriculture.
Right.
Actually, the issue is that there's a whole lot of them sitting out there, a huge population over there, and they are not being given the needed support to be able to do agriculture in a productive way at their end. At the other side, you think that your public distribution system is going to take care of their food needs.
Exactly.
Which is also failing or failed or whatever you want to call it.
Already.
Right? So now that's a double whammy again. So you've got a double whammy, Prachi.
So it is constantly the pressure on the small rain-fed farmers that is actually making them...
They have just too much of pressure anyways,
right,
given the circumstances and the scenario and the understanding of people, And now with this additional climate burden being thrown in, I think they'll be finished. I mean, it's really going to be very, very consequential.
Sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Vasudev, but exactly on this point, we have a tweet which says, Chandrasekhar Ray actually is asking a question, can we then consider soft loans for farmers? Could it become a reality? Please enlighten, because their condition remains the same year after year, which is exactly what you, Pranjal, and you have been actually, stressing upon.
Prachi, it all boils down to how efficient is your delivery system? You can promise a soft loan. How easy is it going to be for any farmer to access that soft loan? You see, so unless and until you clean up this whole delivery mechanism and are an efficient way of functioning, you cannot move on to a system where you turn a tap or put on a switch and you can see the impact of that happening on the other side.
Right.
So that is the real issue. I think the good thing here is that these farmers traditionally have been looking after their own food security needs as subsistence farmers, right? We should do everything possible to give them the kind of support that they need so that they can be self-sufficient. Now, I don't think this is the kind of thinking that agriculture wants to do today, because they're largely seeing that food needs to be grown where it needs to be grown and it can be reached to all the people. Well, it's not happening. I mean, let's concede that. So let's give the smallholder farmer a fair chance to be able to grow his own food and feed his family. That's all I'm trying to convey, basically,
Right. Pranjal, I just wanted to bring you in on this question, possible soft loans, and you've been looking at that sector for quite a while in your experience in business journalism as well. What do you think about the delivery mechanism and the systems in place? We've seen, farmers distressed in Western Maharashtra, in Vidarbha, Marathwada, and it's time and again, it's a vicious cycle, and promises being made by politicians, and nothing really comes out of it.
That's true, Prachi. One of the key issue is, of course, that farmers need to continue to receive certain supports, especially the small and marginal farmers. But I think the key issue is the exploitation of the farmers when they try to sell their produce. I think the linkages to the market and the consumer are still very, very imperfect. In fact, I would say that the system itself is designed in a way to put the farmer at a disadvantage. Just think about this. The only category of producers in the country who cannot sell their produce directly to the consumers at market price are the farmers. Every other producer of every other product can. Now, why does that happen? Because the farmers have to go to the local mandi, and it's the middlemen at the local mandi who decide the prices. Now, there could be some efficient mandis, but really the cartel which operates in the mandis, they give very low prices to the farmers, and they take 50 to 100% profit while when they sell this to wholesalers and further to retailers. So there have been tremendous studies, and I'm sure the experts with you would agree that if you look at the retail price of any agriculture product, the final the produce, the percentage of what the farmer earns is less than maybe 10% or 5%. Now,
Correct.
if the farmer is not getting remunerated for his efforts, which is the hardest over a year, then why should the farmer produce? And these small and marginal farmers need the best access to market to ensure that they do not get into distress situations.
Right, but that again brings us, to this, outcome of inflationary prices. It's the middleman again who seems to be making a profit. It's the larger farmers in the northern belt who seem to be getting returns for their crop, and for their produce. But it's the prices that affect the average middle class consumers and buyers like you and me who are actually feel the impact of inflationary prices, and time and again the government tries to put a check there, but nothing seems to come out of it.
That's right. Two parts to this inflation story and high prices. One is, of course, the fact that the entire value chain and the logistics chain is very weak. So, from reaching the product from the farm to the dining tables of our homes, there are tremendous leakages. 50 to 40% of the products are wasted because we don't have the logistics chain which can protect the value. Second, of course, is what I referred to earlier, is the inflation and so the wastage is included in the cost that you and I pay. Then
Right.
the other issue is the high margins that the brokers at the mandi level do it. Now, we have to allow new mandis to come up. The farmers need competition amongst the mandis. If you can ensure, yes, we will need aggregators, but what we need at the local state level is that different states set up more than one mandi so that a farmer has a choice of going to different mandis. Today, he or she is bound to go to the local mandi. If he goes and sells it anywhere else, he can actually be arrested because of the mandi laws.
Correct.
So until we have competition there and we have investment in the value chain, I don't think the inflation can be affected. Supply will improve only when you ensure that the products which are made get the remuneration.
Right. I just want to go back to Mr. Palavat and bring him in into the conversation. We have a lot of tweets coming in and comments. You can also take part in this conversation. We want to give a voice to your thoughts and views. So do write in on our website and our Twitter handle. Ankit here says that, is it really that, Mr. Palavat, how many times has SkyMet Weather got the monsoon predictions right? That seems to be, a big question.
Yeah, since last 2 years we are doing monsoon forecast. In 2012 we have predicted 94% of rainfall, of long period average rainfall, and actual rainfall was 93%. And last year we have predicted 103% of LPA, and it was 106%. And this time we have predicted 94, and with an error margin of plus minus 4%. So why statistically if we go, so chances of drought according to us is 25%, and chances of below normal rainfall is 40%.
Right.
Below normal rainfall means 95 to 90%
Right.
of long period average.
Correct.
And normal rainfall chances are 34%, and above normal only 1%, and there is no chance of excess rainfall. So if we add below normal and drought, that it comes to be 65%. And normal and below normal will be 74%. So more chances are below normal, not a drought, because this is evolving El Nino. Earlier we have seen statistically since 1951, we have seen 14 droughts, and among them 10 droughts were El Nino droughts. So it is, as of now, we don't see that it is amplifying El Nino. If it has been amplifying El Nino, then the monsoon will go toward drought. But it will be tapering, as all the dynamic models are indicating, that after July it is tapering, it is not increasing as and not amplifying. So chances of drought is more or less very less. Only below normal rainfall chances are more.
So, but you were saying that on an average, if we look at it, we will see a below normal rainfall.
Yes.
So, in terms of it affecting, parts of Vidarbha, Marathwada that time and again seem to face below normal rainfall and already have difficult situations in terms of water supply and irrigation problems there. What kind of an impact will you see, and how bad is the scenario looking?
As of now, monsoon will be on time. So progress will be, initially it will be good up to south interior Karnataka. Then we see that staggered progress. So it may halt for 10 to 12 days or 8 to 10 days. So gradual progress will be there. But this Marathwada, Madhya Maharashtra, Vidarbha, Chhattisgarh and parts of Saurashtra and Kutch, these areas will get impacted. Since last 3 to 4 years, we have seen that whatever weather system is developing over Bay of Bengal, normally earlier they used to take a northwesterly trend across UP, Bihar and up to Punjab.
Correct.
But now they are turning towards west. And Orissa, Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh is getting ample amount of rainfall. But Vidarbha is also getting rainfall since last 2 years. But type of rainfall that is intense shower for short duration, which is of no use to the farmers. But this time in this monsoon, we see that we can predict that amount of rainfall will be much lesser in that areas.
Right. I'll bring in another guest. We have, joining us on Google Hangout. We welcome a lot of opinions and views on this very crucial issue. It's a lively discussion, so do join in and write your comments on our website, indiapostlive.com, and our Twitter handle, #IndiaPostLive. We have somebody joining us on Google Hangout. So could you please introduce yourself, and thank you so much for sharing your time and your experience and views with us at the conversation, sir. Can you hear me, sir? Mr. Sudhir? Yes, sir? Mr. Sudhir Panwar is a professor from Lucknow University. I believe there's a technical issue. We'll try and address that. Mr. Panwar, can you hear us clearly?
Yeah, please.
Thank you so much for joining us at the conversation at India Post Live. We are very, very, pleased to have you on joining us on this very crucial discussion. What are your views on the entire topic? Were you able to hear our experts in the studio and Mr. Sharma, who joined us on Google Hangout as well? Were you able to hear us? Mr. Panwar?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. What are your views in terms of the weak monsoon? What are your views on the weak monsoon prediction this time around that we are told by the experts at SkyMet?
No, actually, the 85% of the Indian agriculture is dependent on monsoon, the proper monsoon, as rightly said. If it is disturbed, then definitely it is going to harm the farming and the economy also.
Sir, what kind of impact will it have on our farmers and inflationary prices? It's going to be a vicious cycle that we will see in the next couple of months.
No, farmer will be affected on the two sides, rather. First, there is a fall in the production, and then he will be subjected to the inflationary pressure. So the farmer has the double loss in that situation.
Right, sir. I'll just come to you again, Mr. Vasudev. Like he is actually predicting, he's saying that there will be deficiency in the rainfall in certain parts, and it's never going to be sufficient rainfall, especially for the small rain-fed farmers in Maharashtra. Looking at Maharashtra, they just finished polling yesterday in several big constituencies and crucial ones in Marathwada as well. Do you feel that the farmers there have had it particularly tough this time, or the last, say, decade?
Vidarbha is a very vulnerable area. I mean, I don't want to rake up this whole issue of farmer suicides and so on and so forth, but Vidarbha is pretty much there. I also manage an NGO which has done a lot of work in Vidarbha in terms of conservation agriculture. We did some pilots and proved it to the farmers how you can do climate resilient agriculture.
Right.
But it is a very, very sensitive area on one side. On the other side, politically, if you see, Vidarbha is an abandoned cause on the other side. So I don't know what is going to be the impact of this political vulnerability on account of this farming issue now. So I think there are two questions that you need to look at over here. And any rain-fed farmer in any region of the country is going to get hit severely if the predictions of SkyMet come very close to true. But then it may be a wake-up call.
Right. Just last few comments. We'll wrap up this discussion probably on a grim note. But does it get any more serious and tough for our farming and agriculture community? But in terms of average and middle class consumers and buyers who would be hoping for some positive news with the new government, do you feel this will be a priority agenda? Would you actually pose a question to the new government that comes to power that this could be a challenge, inflationary prices, a weak monsoon and the ripple effect of all of it?
Is this question for me?
Yes, Pranjal. Go ahead.
Well, I think, inflation has become a huge election issue. So I think that if you look at the new government and dynamics across state elections as well, there will have to be some pressure on them to make structural changes. For the last 5 years, when Reserve Bank of India kept increasing the interest rates to do whatever little it could to control inflation, it said very clearly. And the former governor, Dr. D. Subbarao, said that structural changes by the government have to be made to contain inflation. Now, that's a polite way of saying that the government hasn't done much on all the issues that we're talking about. Changes in the farmers' linkages to the markets, changes in the logistics chain from, again, farm to the residences and consumption patterns, plus investment in irrigation and investment in other agricultural infrastructure. Now, these are the structural issues which have to be addressed, and whichever government can do this will reap the benefits and have to pun on it to have a great harvest at elections.
Right. Thank you so much, Pranjal. On that note, I will take a last comment. Thank you for your time and your views. You've had a lot of experience in this field. Thank you so much for joining us on Google Hangout, and do take forward this entire conversation on your Twitter handle as well. Thank you so much. Just one last, comment and thoughts from both of you. Mr. Vasudev, I'll put it over to you. It's a one-point agenda. What will the new agriculture minister, a tough task ahead for him, and possibly the rural development minister as well?
Well, it will be. And if they're going to inherit the climate change forecast the way you're talking about, it's going to be so much more difficult for them. But then probably it calls for a different kind of a resilience and addressal of issue, which they will be able to. Because everybody knows, we keep calling the rural development and the agriculture as the final frontier. One which has still not been addressed through your 2 decades of growth.
Right.
Well, I would say you need to pull it out of the cupboard from being a forgotten frontier to making it a final frontier, first of all. But maybe there will be some seriousness if with the new government who are coming in, whoever they may be, and if they realize and historically track what has got this country to where it is and where does the problem really lie, Because one aspect we have not touched upon, and which is very grave, is there will be a huge migration. And the influx into the urban areas is something that we are just not geared up to coping with. We just can't. We don't even understand urban development the way we would like to need to. Right. And if you have 60% of the people coming in from the villages into this area, one, it's going to create a problem on the urban side, and second, on the other side, who's going to grow your food?
Right.
So I think I'd like to leave it there.
Okay. Mr. Palavat, let's hope that SkyMet weather continues its predictions on a more accurate note as well. Last kind of thoughts from you before you leave us at the conversation.
Yeah. This time, as we have predicted, that monsoon will be below normal, but I don't think that there's need to panic, because drought conditions is unlikely. It will be more of just like 1968 monsoon, which was 11% below normal, but this time it will not be such severe, right. But it may be slightly below normal, that is normal is from 96 to 104%, and we have predicted 94%.
Right.
So some areas will be getting lesser rainfall, but other areas like Orissa and some parts of East India may get some surplus rain.
So we don't necessarily end on a grim note, but something to be cautious and ponder over. Thank you so much to our esteemed guests and analysts for joining us in the studio, and our expert comments coming in from, from our guests on Google Hangout and Skype. You too can write into us and take forward this conversation. It's going to be a tough task for the government that comes into power. Not a very favorable monsoon that is being predicted, but we'll keep an eye on it. Do send in your comments and join us on a conversation at India Post Live. Keep watching. Thank you.